When all else fails, kick your hiking partner in the knee and run like hell because the New Mexico's Bigfoot are coming right for you. That's right, folks. We're off to a scary night of growls, whistles, and moans deep within the Four Corners area. Will we survive the episode? Find out tonight. Along with some new quasi theories and hopefully a camping tips for stupids. It's time to break out the headphones and get squatchy. And now, here's our host, the beard with the most, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
In order to find his equal, an Irishman is forced to talk to God. Yes, Father. The Almighty says, don't change the subject, just answer the fucking question.
And with that, welcome everybody back to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. And the question is anybody ever going to find Bigfoot? Well, apparently Finding Bigfoot did not. Their series finale will be all wrapped up with no findage of the Bigfoot. However, Matt Moneymaker's got a brand new show called Native Giants coming. I don't think it's really coming. I think they're just telling people that they have a buyer for it. But I don't believe that's actually true. We'll see in the coming months. And with that, everybody, we are here. We're going to talk about a little bit about the news this week. A little bit of stuff here to bring up. Let's see here. Yep, there we go. And the engraved stone artifacts in the Crimean find demonstrate Neanderthal symbolism. Now, this is something that I never wanted to give credit to anything before Homo sapien. Really, that they would have language or that they would have symbolism. What is the symbolism of it? As they said in the Boondock Saints, a flint flake from the Middle Paleolithic of Crimea was likely engraved symbolically by a skilled Neanderthal hand, according to a study published May 2nd, 2018 in the open access journal PLOS ONE by Anna Majkic from the University of Bordeaux, France, and colleagues. The authors developed a detailed framework for interpreting the engravings on the stone artifacts. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like finding stone tablets in ancient Mesopotamia and deciding that you can interpret what they say. But it's just neat to think that even that far back, symbolism or symbols or engravings to convey a thought or a picture or a lesson per se could go back to things that they say weren't really all that intelligent. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder how intelligent they really were. Speaking of intelligence, apparently humans don't have much more. An article about will China wipe out the world's rarest ape. The imperiled ape become a tragic icon in China's trillion-dollar infrastructure expansion plans. I mean, I don't know if anybody really understands what's going on in the world. Most people don't really bound outside of their own reality. But if you look at the world, China's trying to develop everything. They have been collecting natural resources, silver, gold, precious metals, anywhere and everywhere they can get somebody to allow them to go dig it. And even if they don't allow them to go dig it, they go dig it up anyhow. Literally, there are precious metal Chinese pirates out there stealing gold and silver from landowners from every place of the corner of the world that you can think of, from the jungles of Africa and South America to really in the Klondike. They say that they're a big problem up there too. I'm not busting on Chinese people because personally I like Chinese people, but their government's got some messed up ideas about what the world is and they think they own it all. Anyhow, they're building this giant facility right on the edge of the world's rarest orangutan, and it just seems to be like a sad state of events when things like this are still allowed to happen over money. I mean, they could have built that 20 miles away and it would have cost them, you know, another 200,000 or 200 million, whatever it costed to get it to wherever they needed it to get to. But no, let's just kill off the world's rarest ape. Screw that guy. Here's an interesting article from knkx.org. Bigfoot ruined this man's life and then gave him a fresh start with a big old picture of Bob Gimlin. Yeah, how did Bigfoot really ruin his life? I've never really been too sure of that. It's a 9-minute, 22-second interview. It's typed out here for most of it. They talk about the encounter in Willow Creek. Personally, you know, I don't know. Listen to it. You decide what to think about it, and then leave it in the comments. It's you can search for Bigfoot ruined, and it pops right up under the search at the end of the bar, because that's how I found it. Okay, moving right along. I talked just a couple of weeks about looking for little people instead of looking for Bigfoot, and all of a sudden, bam, searching Northern Australia for the indigenous little people. That's right. I told you there's far more stories of little people than there are of Bigfoot out there. They're everywhere in North Australia and nowhere. They're real and unreal, mythical and historical. They are depicted in the rock art, and they are in the stories. They're in the minds of men and women from Cape York and the top end, right across to the Broome and distant Indian Ocean shore. Little people. They have 100 local names for them: Rai, Chanjari, Mimith. Yet the picture we have of them is strikingly consistent. We know that they're slight, elusive, magical, mischievous, and we're all told that they're always nearby, listening, hovering, poised just beyond the edge of our field of vision. And they are necessary companion beings to complete and populate the vast, empty-seeming country of the remote north. I mean, people do take this stuff absolutely serious. I have an uncle in Ireland that will take you pixie hunting, and I'm not searching for pixies. I am not joking with you. I mean, he is as dead serious as a man can be, and it starts with 3 pints at the pub. He says that you have to get that amount of alcohol into your system for your eyes to actually relax enough for you to be able to admit that you're seeing pixies. I don't know. That's what he says. The 3 pints, though, yeah, warm Guinness, warm beer. All right, wrapping it up this evening. The Southeastern Ohio Society for Bigfoot Investigation, or SOSB, they're having a camp out the same weekend we are. That's right, May 18th through the 20th at the Parker Road Salt Fork State Park. There is an event for it on Facebook. There's a bunch of people that look like they're going to go. So, yep, the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th is exactly what I was going to talk about next. That's right. The El Dorado Bigfoot Watch Expedition Stumpy is still on. That's next Friday, people. That is right. That's going to be an awesome weekend. For those of you that are coming along, we did get some service news from the ranger station. The water facilities at the camp may not be available throughout the entire weekend. They have to have a new pump head installed, and they are hoping to have it installed and tested by May 18th. But this is the California government, so it'll be May 18th of 2020 probably. So if you're coming in, bring a few gallons of fresh water with you. Remember, the reservoir is right there. We can always boil water on the fire. Having clean water at this particular lake isn't going to be an issue. However, do bring in a few gallons to make sure that you could that you have enough to cook with, and that you have enough to take care of your needs. That was the last update that we got from them. I'll be calling them next Tuesday to see whether the roads are open for a final update before we go out there. If you want to support Expedition Stumpy, but you can't go, get your t-shirt, redbubble.com/people/Bigfoot Watch, all one word. And that will put you into my campaigns for the Redbubble shirt. You can support the show, pick up your Squatchers Lounge podcast gear there. You can become an official El Dorado Bigfoot member. Any purchase gets you a membership. I've got a few memberships I need to announce, but I haven't exactly figured out who everybody is yet. People buying them from Canada, not leaving me any names. So if you have bought any of the podcast merch gear, send me an email of you in it or with it or a picture of it on your desk to sloungepodcast@gmail.com, and I will send back your official Eldorado Bigfoot Watch membership information. That's right, folks. Wow. Next Friday, man. Yeah, they're stocking the lake literally on Wednesday. Before we get there, they're putting 4,000 pounds of fingerling and ready to catch rainbow trout in the lake just for us. Not really just for us, but for anybody. But chances are there's only going to be about 30 people fishing that whole lake, and we will have a blast doing it. So with that, my friends, that is the news of the week. Look at that. I didn't fat finger the stop broadcast button this week either. Yay! As a matter of fact, we do have a new quasi from our quasi scientist, Mr. Dean Cooper, and Mr. Jevin did get in with the trash pandas, so we will have us a camping tips for stupids as well. So with that, let's go ahead and bring up our little quasi, and we'll see what the quasi man has brought for us this week. Sit back, enjoy your time with Mr. Dean Cooper, our quasi scientist. Crap. And now, quasi theories from a quasi scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
More on May Day, more or less. Last week, Tuesday, was May Day. I instructed you all on May Day festivities, such as the Maypole Dance, the Haymarket Riot or Massacre, depending on which side you were on, socialist parades, and whatnot. I mentioned that it was also the major Celtic pagan holiday of Beltane, a spring fertility festival. Now, most of the old pagan world had their spring festival on the first day of spring, or scheduled it to correlate the spring equinox with a full moon, like the pagan holiday of Easter. The Celts were a bit odd about their holiday scheduling, though. Beltane is about halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. Their other three big holidays were likewise halfway between equinoxes and solstices. All four, in order of their celebration, were Imbolg, which was around February 2nd, Beltane, which if you've been paying any kind of attention, you already know the date of, although it was actually more like on May 5th, Lugnasa, which was around August 1st, and lastly was Samhain, which is around November 1st. The holidays based on the sun's position are referred to as quarter days. It is in dispute as to whether the Celts celebrated them. They certainly knew about them. There's enough old standing stones and circles with equinoctial and solstitial alignment to show that. The Celts' holidays are called cross-quarter days. Much of the ancient world had their big holidays smack dab on the equinoxes and solstices. These Celtic holidays were based more on the actual cycle of living things. Imbolg, at the beginning of February, was about when the sheep would start birthing lambs. It was also the beginning of the light, bright half of the year. Christians scarfed up this holiday as Candlemas, or the Feast of the Virgin Mary, or of the presentation of the child Jesus. Take your pick. Beltane was when plants really started flowering, trees popped out leaves, and crops began to sprout from the ground. The Christians pretty much left this one alone, possibly because of the poles with knobs on the end being a bit too obvious a metaphor. Lugnasa was when you first began harvesting crops. This became the Christian holiday of the Festival of St. Peter's Chains. I think the church pulled a real stretcher on that one. Samhain was the end of harvesting and the start of the dark half of the year. This became All Saints' Day, of course. Modern pagans, apparently wanting to make sure they've got all their gods and goddesses' bases covered, make a big shebang out of all the quarter and cross-quarter holidays. Or maybe they just like partying. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. It's BHAIDIN.com.
And there you have it. More Mayday mayhem from the Quasi Man himself, Mr. Dean Cooper. All right. As suggested by me, our crazy man from Camping Tips for Stupids and the Gone Camping channel, Mr. Jebin Moore, has brought us some fascinating information on the trash panda of America's Northwest.
Camping Tips for Stupids. Tip number 65. It's early spring, and camping season has sprung. Or more like exploded in a big greasy mess across America. Everyone and their mothers are out there, and they are all bringing the fatty, sugary foods from the city with them. Now, aside from just eating badly, a lot of you dummies want to store your food away properly. Things like leaving sugary soda cans laying around that attract wasps and other stinging insects. Garbage sacks hanging off the picnic table you forgot to put in the dumpster before nightfall. And now all the trash pandas, scavengers of the forest are all over your campsite like a giant furry ant invasion. We are not feeding the whole damn forest, people. Pack your shit away properly and wipe down surfaces so that there's no lingering smells. Even your own crack. Bear canisters and lockable metal coolers are your best friends. And are sure better ones as opposed to this guy. This has been Camping Tips. Remember to stay minority of population.
Holy bejesus, I'm so sorry, folks. They can't all be winners, damn it. Go over to the Gone Camping channel and check that one out live from his channel, please, because it's really funny. And unfortunately, something between me and my computer is no longer happy. It doesn't love me anymore. It thinks I should probably jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, and I'm not ready to do that. So, so with that, let's get a little bit of shout out love going on out here, and we will see what is going on. Make sure you leave a comment in the chat box there. If you haven't, I won't know that you're here to say hi to you, and that'll just be a sad day for everybody. So let's get kicking up here. There's Mr. Collier Wilmus, our announcer, man. How you doing there, big guy? Miss Natalie Smith, how you? Miss Starshine, she's out there swinging her tool, so be careful. Shane Barber's in the house. Hello, sir. Along with Mr. Dean Cooper. Lance Windsor, that dude's always in the house, as well as Ken. You know, those guys are like superstars around here. Cheryl Willen, there she is. I might have said it, but Jonathan Dowdy, I didn't. So there you are. There's Rod Dupree. He's checking in. He's the place to be. That's right. He'll be joining us here for the camp out coming up next week. Let's see. Timothy McCune, how you doing, sir? Glad you have joined us as well. Spike Jeff, hi back at you. Oreo cream rocks. Yes, it does. It's so good. Yummy, yummy. Gone camping. Mr. Jevin Williams there. He is. I'm here. He's there. That makes it all awesome. Ken Squanch is checking in with us as well. I know there's more people than this. Kathy Yarborough. That's right. She's there under the wire. Let's see here. Karen, Rob, how you doing? Glad you're with us tonight as well. Gustavo from Argentino. Yes, the South American Bigfoot has like a big mouth in its belly and its like feet are on backwards. Search South American Bigfoot in the channel search box, and David Batdorf and I did a show about it a couple of seasons ago. It was actually a fun time. Bigfoot around the world. Yes, sir. We used to do a lot of fun stuff like that. Pardon me. There it goes again. Pollen in Sacramento is pretty bad. So if you're coming, please make sure you bring your medication with you. Mr. Fang, 33. Kevin K, 420. He's checking in with us as well. And that, my friends, seriously looks like that's who's out there this week. I'm okay with that. I'm glad y'all are here with me. We are talking about New Mexico. That is right. And I don't have it up for me to be able to show it to you, but I do now. Okay, here we go. New Mexico, the Mogollon Rim. Daggum it now. Oh, Mitch Waite. You know, he did a lot of research on the Bigfoots around in these particular areas. And then, you know, these the ones we're talking about tonight, they came off of part of them came out of a reservation, and another part of them came here off of the rim. Now, the first one we're going to talk about here tonight is the New Mexico River Crier. Now, this is a case that's taken off of the reservation. Now, I've got a 30-second clip of it that's been unaltered, and then I've got a couple of clips that we're going to run of what they call the crier. And listen close. It's been enhanced and played with so many times. I searched back as far as I could to find a less dick twist copy of it, but this was just the best I could come up with. So let's give it a listen. No, I mean, I don't even know how to assess that. I mean, I really don't. Here's an enhanced copy of the first cry out, but it's so small lunged and quiet that I'm not sure. You know, I'm not even sure what all that garble in the background is. It's got to be something that happened in the enhancement to it as well. And then I took and enhanced the hell out of the best cry that there was there, and basically this is what it gave. Sounds very fox-like to me. Sounds like a female fox crying, probably one in heat. And now, even saying that, when you go back and listen to the original, I mean, if you're really curious, you can go out there and search out fox mating calls, and we're probably going to find that that's what they sound like. Now this next one, though, some researchers were out in the rim. They were doing some investigations. A small group had broken off from the main group and walked down a ravine and up the other side and just kind of sat down and started instigating. So I've got about a 3-minute clip. Let's pray. Let me minimize everything else that's up and going on here. And we'll hopefully be able to get all the way through that. And it's really interesting to see what happens. There is definitely some kind of a monkey chatter in the background. There's also an owl. And then there's also something that's not an owl. And it reveals itself as the file goes on. So 256 is cut down from the original. I cut a lot of the garbage out of it, actually. And then after that, we'll get really specific with it. But take a listen to the original file. If it gets too bad, I'll probably just cut it and we'll go to the individuals.
Oh my God.
That was good.
That's perfect. We have our whooper. Good try, Mark.
Yeah, I told you it was probably not going to be good. You had a disclaimer.
Okay, now we'll sit here and be quiet and listen, see if anybody comes.
Mike's was good. Yeah, that's loud. Yes. I gotta take my earpiece out. No. Bird. No, that's not a bird. Yeah, it is. Holy shit. I can't see anything.
Okay, well, there was a lot going on there. The first calls, obviously, we heard was their bait call, and then a couple of minutes went on, and things started getting closer and louder to wherever their recorder was. Now, the first owl that I heard, it had the typical hoot, 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 hoot. And then wherever this squawk came from, at one point, the squawk and the monkey bark are responding to each other. And then there's a squeak from the hoot owl. So as it plays out, you can see that, there is an owl there, but there's also something that's a much squawkier than what an owl should sound like. That's either baiting or moving or directing wherever the bark is, and it's almost as if they're trying to triangulate where these people are. So here's an 8-second cut enhanced. I really brought this up. I really brought this up so that we could hear what was going on. Now, here's the second instance where it's nearly the same thing. Get a squawk and then a bark reply to it. That's definitely not a dog. Not a coyote. Not a wolf. What is it? Finally, a third example of nearly the same type of interaction. I mean, unless that's a person walking in on them in the dark, giving monkey calls to them, I'm not really sure where that's going to be in the middle of New Mexico in the middle of night when they know where the rest of their companions are, and the guy has night vision. When you heard him say that I can't see anything, because it was nighttime. Yeah, but the guy had night vision and still couldn't see anything in the scopes. So whatever it was had come close enough to see them, but didn't want it to reveal itself to the guys that were there. I mean, those guys had steel, balls of steel. I've been in that situation where things walk up on you in camp and you're not expecting it, and all of a sudden, Bigfoot's real. And for a lot of people, that's the first time Bigfoot's real, and they kind of freak out about it. They don't really, they kind of freeze, and it's like, well, yeah, that's what you do. You just kind of sit there and wait to make sure the sounds are gone, and they're not going to run into camp and rip your arms off and beat you to death with them. I mean, because hey, I'm all for that. Just make sure y'all get some DNA from him, okay? I'll gladly give up my life to prove Bigfoot exists, but I'm not going to be bait. And with that, my friends, is going to bring us almost to the end of the show, but not quite. I do have a real Bigfoot encounter tonight that I want to share. Everybody has been asking for this one. They have forgotten. I had forgotten where it was. Let me mention some late arrivals to the lounge here. Chicken Dippers. How you doing there, Chicken Dippers? Aaron Duncan joined us as well as Bigfooter. And I think that may be who I saw come in late. This is the story of the hiker across Florida who took his little Chihuahua Paco with him into the Ocala National Forest. And everybody has been asking for this one, and I finally found it, and that is how we're going to end tonight's show. I want to thank each and every single one of you guys for being here tonight. May the healing light find its way upon you and heal anything that may be bothering you. Don't mind the Sasquatches. They're just going to pass around the donation plates. It's fine. They take 10s, 20s. It doesn't really matter. They're not going to bite you. They're well trained. And with that, we will most definitely see everybody right here next week for the final update before the big camp out. So if there are still very limited slots left on this adventure, If you want them, you better claim them now. It is free to come and camp with us, but you got to pay your way to get there and survive for the weekend. So with that, sloungepodcast@gmail.com. Message me on Facebook, and I'll get you a reservation. But I did have quite a few people fill up this week. So with that, enjoy Paco the Chihuahua and the Bigfoot burrito of Florida. Welcome to another edition of Real Bigfoot Encounters with Reverend Jeff. This week's story comes to us from deep within the wilds of the vast North Florida Ocala National Forest. A young hiker attempting to cross the entire forest has a run-in with a creature unlike anything he's ever heard of before. Could this be the Bigfoot of legends? Let's hear his story and find out. My name is John C., and I was an avid hiker. I lived near the ocean in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. In the spring of my 18th birthday, I decided to hike across Florida, just me and my Chihuahua, Paco, a hiking pack, and enough gear to make us comfy each night. Our first few days out were pretty normal. We hiked from park to park, set up a hammock overnight, and moved on the next day. No one even noticed we were there. It was about the fifth day when we arrived at the edge of the Ocala National Forest. I had ordered maps of the park long before I ventured out from home, as I knew people have gotten lost, never to be seen again over the decades in the park. We've been packing in along Route 44, which led from the East Coast basically right into the West Coast along that route, and it cut right through the middle of the forest for many miles. I figured we'd be in the park for at least 4 nights before crossing the nearly 70 miles of dense, really unforgiving territory. But this wasn't our first rodeo. Paco and I made a short distance into the forest that day, so we posted up near a trail in the afternoon. I figured we could get some good rest and push off early the next day, hoping to cover 15 miles. I set up my hammock and started a small campfire, cooked up some Chef Boyardee for me and Paco. Yeah, I know it's bad for us, but only brought a few cans to enjoy. The rest was dry dog food and MRE packs. Oh, joy. Well, we sat along a log a lot that I drug over near the fire pit. We ate up like it was steak fillets. The night was so quiet, it was kind of spooky. But what was there to fear? I had my fearless Paco at my side. I let the fire die down, and I picked up Paco, and we settled into the hammock for some sleep. I was awakened to a strange noise at about 3 in the morning. I swear, it sounded like a tree was falling or something was grunting while tearing up in the brush about 30 yards outside of our camp. We went to see what was there, but could have been anything from a bear to a wild boar. At this point, maybe even a panther. Soon after, though, everything was quiet again. My nerves settled, but we went back to sleep. I awoke to a beautiful day. The birds were singing. The wind was blowing. So I packed us up and away we went. I decided to walk out past the area that the noise had come from that night. I discovered the strangest thing. A tree twisted and broken, but not at the ground, nearly 5 feet up the trunk. It surely didn't look natural, and all the grass around the tree looked as if a football team had been running blocking drills around it for hours, just all smashed down. I decided it'd be best to move on as the daylight was burning, and the further I got from this, the better I'd feel about it. I took a route that led us past Alexander Springs and led over towards Buck Lake, hoping they'd be able to fish that night when we arrived. Sadly, some weather moved in late in the afternoon, so I set up a tarp and hung the hammock to wait out the storm deep off trail in a place one would hope not to be found. The rain set in, the wind picked up, the darkness soon set. There was no hope for a fire, everything was just too wet. Just about 9 o'clock, the rain finally stopped, but the clouds were so thick and the forest was cloaked in a darkness that your eyes just couldn't pierce. Paco was shivering, and for that matter, so was I, and I could feel something just wasn't right. Something out there. I knew it for sure. I could hear it, huffing and puffing in the darkness as it seemed to pace around our spot. Paco let out a loud bark, and for whatever reason, whatever it was, snorted back. And then it seemed to bark right back at Paco in a far deeper tone. Paco pulled back in fear for a moment, and then he lost his ever-loving mind. Paco jumped from my arms and charged off into the darkness, barking and snarling like nothing I'd ever seen him do before. He was quickly out of my sight and seemingly lost in the darkness without me. My heart sank into the pit of my guts when I heard him whimper and yelp in pain from the darkness, and that's when I lost it too. I picked up a large branch in one hand and grabbed my bowie knife in the other, and out I went screaming into the woods where I had heard my best friend. One moment I'm He-Man, and the very next moment I was as terrified as I'd never been before. Right in front of me stood a hair-covered giant, as dark as the night, snarling and whooping at me like a rabid dog on a fresh kill. Just to his side was Paco. He was laying in a heap near a root ball of a fallen down tree, and I charged at the beast with everything I had. I swung the branch as hard as I could, but the monster just swatted it away like it was nothing to fear. The branch went flying from my hand, and the pain stung deep into my palm, as if I just struck a mailbox filled with concrete with a baseball bat. So I lurched forward with the bowie knife, and the blade struck his arm as he went to defend, and the blade pierced it, and he jerked back and shrieked in pain and then anger. It charged at me, knocking me to the ground to what seemed like its waist. It was so tall, and I smacked my head on a tree root and passed out for a bit. The next thing I knew, I awoke. 10 hours had passed. It was morning again, and there by my side was Paco, keeping me warm and very much alive. When I stirred, he woke up, wagged his tail, and slowly stood up. He yelped in pain for a moment as I started to rise. I felt faint at first, but my strength returned. I took a quick look around and found giant footprints all around the area in what looked like some kind of nest made out of pine boughs. Could it be that we just happened to hunker down on its den? Could my luck really be that horrible? I quickly gathered up what gear I could find, and I showed Paco the fastest way out to the road. I'd immediately flagged down the first car I saw, and I begged them to take us to the ranger station. Poor lady that stopped was grossed out by my looks. I hadn't realized I had a head wound, and half of my head was covered in blood. Nancy was her name. She quietly asked me what happened. What was I supposed to say? The truth? No way. So I told her I was intact in my camp while I slept, but I never saw who did it. The ranger station was about 20 minutes away, and we arrived pretty quickly, as I think she was afraid of me, because the moment I stepped out of the truck and grabbed my pack, she peeled off in her truck without looking back. I stepped up to the ranger station, and when I got to the front door, I caught a glimpse of the shape I was in and realized that had what scared Nancy so badly. The ranger on duty noticed me and came to the door. He rushed over, opened it, let Paco and I inside. He grabbed my pack as I made my way over to the bench, and he called for an ambulance and a local county sheriff right away. He then asked what happened, and I actually told him the truth. His eyes got as wide as saucers as I let the details unfold to him, so much so that at one point he pointed out and said, "I knew it," to which I asked, of course, "What the hell do you mean?" He said, "I knew Bigfoot was real. That's what you ran into." "Where exactly did it happen?" Ranger Tom brought over a map, and I circled the spot as close of a guess as I could make. He then folded up the map and put it in his coat pocket before anyone arrived. Ranger Tom told me frankly that while I should tell the truth that I had been attacked, it would be wise to just claim it happened while you slept. You didn't see who did it like you did with Nancy. I thought to myself, that's what I should have told Ranger Tom, too. The medic arrived, and he cleaned up my wound. He asked what happened, and I gave him the same story I told Nancy. And Ranger Tom said that was the story that I'd told him as well. It turned out my wound wasn't all that bad. I didn't need to go to the hospital. The deputy sheriff showed up next, and after talking to Ranger Tom and Medic Pete, he came over and asked me to tell him what happened. For just a moment, just that fleeting microsecond, I wanted to blurt out, "I was attacked by Bigfoot, you schmuck," but I gave him the short version as well. They called for my uncle to drive out from the beach to pick me up. About an hour later, Uncle Matt was there. He loaded my gear into the trunk of his car and put Paco into the back seat. He helped me out to the car, never asked why I didn't call my father. We rode halfway home in silence, and I was the one that started to talk. I started out with, "Well, you won't believe this story, but it is the truth." I recounted the events to him the best I could manage to recall, and Uncle Matt only asked one thing of me. He says I need a description of the beast. I told him it was nearly 7 feet tall, very wide at the shoulders with a head that set deep on top with no neck. It narrowed at the waist like a bodybuilder, which led to big, powerful legs with strange proportions to the knees. The arms seemed to be super strange as well, as if the bone from the shoulder to the elbow was a good 1/3 longer than it should be, making it swing low on the body close to that odd knee. Hair so black it seemed to disappear into the night. Long arms, and then shorter at the hips. What I remember most is the face, which is the last thing I saw as I fell to the ground as it charged me. A cone-shaped head, deep, wide-set eyes, pure black. It had a hint of brown around the iris. A big rounded nose and low-slung jaw with what seemed to be was on a hinge as it was screaming. It opened so widely I could smell its foul breath. Is that enough, I asked, to which he replied, yes. Boy, that's quite enough. I believe you. Anyone with such a story had better have gotten a good look at whatever knocked him to the ground. I know there's creatures out there we haven't seen in modern times, that there's all the same, the Seminole legends go back a couple hundred years. You just had the worst luck hunkering down near its den. I'm just glad the two of you were okay. Uncle Matt agreed with me that my parents should get the short story, and my mother will worry to death anytime I leave the house. I fell down. I landed on Paco. We got help. The end. That was a story I told for years to protect myself from ridicule. Well, no more will I hide. It happened to me. It could happen to you. I no longer hike in the woods. This poor guy had the bad luck of claiming territory that wasn't his. His brush with the monster nearly ended his days with another real Bigfoot encounter. Thanks for watching. I'm Reverend Jeff. May the Squatch be with you. All right, and a final good night to everybody. Thank you so much. Miss Squatchbox, Cassie, and Christopher showed up a little late. So glad they could be here along with Pigeon 01, the Forest Cop, and others. If I missed you this week, come and leave me a message last week. Give us a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notifications, and for God's sakes, leave me a comment. I love you guys. I will see you next week, same time, same Squatchy channel. That's right. Bye-bye now.